Yay.
Satnam, everybody.
Satnam.
Satnam.
That's the way.
Satnam. I'm sorry, I had a little trouble getting in. Anyway, I'm so happy that you all are here. Now, who's here?
Tomas and Rahmane.
Welcome, dears. Rahmane and Tomas, and who else?
Yes.
Debbie, Guru Simran.
Guru Simran, welcome, dear.
Hi.
And who else?
Yes, dear.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Couldn't be here.
Uh-oh.
Padam Dian. We have an echo.
Aloha. No, that wasn't Padam Dian. Padam Dian here. Aloha.
Okay, aloha. And who was the other person that I mistook their name?
Couldn't be here.
Put in beer. Beer. Put in beer.
Yes.
Where are you from?
From Phoenix.
Oh, glad to have you, dear. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And who else is here?
Ranji.
Anantji is here.
Yes, hello.
Say it again.
Ranji.
Oh, Ranji, welcome, dear. And who else? Someone else spoke when you did.
Honeymunder.
Hi, Honeymunder. How are you?
Good.
Jasper.
Say it again. Jasper Carr.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where are you from, dear?
Juno.
Juno. It's the Juno group. Welcome.
Thank you.
And who else is here?
Lucinda.
Hi, Lucinda. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I got to see the Dalai Lama when he just came to Portland.
Oh, how fabulous. That's always an
It was a real
incredible
blessing.
experience.
A very wonderful blessing.
Yeah. And who else is here? Anyone else? Okay, well, welcome. Now, I'm going to tell you I have a little respiratory situation going on here, so if I just start coughing or if I seem to disappear, don't worry, okay? I'll get it resolved, but we may have a sort of a shortened class, so don't worry about that either. I'll let you know, okay? But otherwise, we'll just continue. Okay, so everybody, please sit straight. Begin long, deep breathing. That's it, from the belly through the nose. And focus at the third eye point, relaxing into soul at the third eye point. And inhale to begin. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Begin long, deep breathing. from the belly through the nose. That's it. And now, keep that up, but on the exhale, feel as though the air is coming out of your heart center. That's it. Really let it open up your heart. Good. And now please send this beautiful heart breath to each other. It's a beautiful, how can I say, energy well that we all draw sustenance from and all give to. It's a round robin, and it improves with the circulation. Good. And now, please send your heart breath to the Middle East for healing, as well as to your own special intentions. And if you could include me, I would appreciate it. Good. Now you can continue your heart breath if you like. Very special healing breath. One that you can do for your own self, one that you can do for others, and for any part of our planet. Okay, so Baba Siri Chand is here. He's saying, oh, welcome, and he has such huge arms. He's holding everybody. What a delight. Okay, sir, we're ready. He says, I can see you all in your theater seats with your popcorn already. Okay, here we go. Well, okay. He's saying, take your left hand and put it in the air. He says, send it straight up with the palm out. He says, and continue your long, deep breathing, your heart breath. He says, we're going to do this for a while, so don't worry about it. He says, just keep it up. And I'm asking him why we are doing this. And he says, don't worry about it. He says, just do it. Just do it as I talk. Okay. He says, your heart is like a mountain. He says, your heart is never free of the earth. In other words, oftentimes people think, or I should say, sometimes people think that they the best way to open their hearts is in some way to cut themselves off from the earth, or the terrors of the earth, or the worries of the earth. And then if they do that, then their heart can open and bloom freely. He says, oh, my dears, is that backwards or is that backwards? He says, if you want, you can trade and put your right arm up. Okay. So, sir, okay, so what next? He says, your heart is the biggest blossom there could ever be in this world. He says, do you understand what I'm saying? In this world. He is saying that that nothing will carry you over. Nothing will carry you over to what we normally call the other side, more than your open heart. He says, but you must be grounded. You must be grounded in the wealth, the contribution, the knowing, the very true grounding of this sacred earth. He says, okay, put your arms down now. He says, you have been given the great quality of earth, the great quality of earth. He says, and out of this that you may call the dung of the earth, he says, this is where your real heart grows. He says, this is why you came to earth. He said, if you stayed in heaven, he says, you would never be able to complete your rounds to come back to full union. He says, so this is the time to fully appreciate the aroma of the earth, the pinnacles of the earth, the heartfelt areas that feel as though you are deprived, that feel as though you are victimized, that feel as though you are lost. He says you have picked this out for very special and immaculate reasons. He says it is time to anoint and sanctify the earth. He says, please do that now, using your heart breath. Please anoint and sanctify the earth. He says, when you do that, he says, I'm just not talking about the birds and the bees. He says, the weather in the mountains. He says, I am talking about your earthly escapades, your earthly difficulties and triumphs over lifetime. He says, I'm asking you to honor, to be grateful for all that has happened in this lifetime and other lifetimes, to be grateful for all that you judge as crappy and creepy. He says, honor it, sanctify it. Do that now using your heart breath. He says, this is what you came for. You came to turn darkness to light, didn't you? Every one of you is a healer. Every one of you came to sanctify this earth plane. So how can you continue to wrap yourself up in your places of judgment, of crying, of self-incrimination? He says, it's time to throw your cocoon inside out. Keep up your heart breath. He says, sanctify the wailing. Use your heart breath. Sanctify the hurt. He says, it is not to put it on a pedestal and bow down to it. No. He says it is to sanctify it with love, with forgiveness from your heart, so that it may turn from alligators chomping at your feet, from running in fear from the darkness. He says to allow the light to shine not only on it, but from within it. As you forgive all that has happened to you, all that has happened to your ancestors, all that will happen in the future, in which you may be faced with challenges that make you feel bad, constricted, hurt, buried, torn apart. He says, use this heart breath with the utmost gravity, he says, the utmost gravity and the utmost love. He says, this is a source of love that you are mining right now. Without this, you do not keep a place for yourself on this earth, and you keep yourself tied up in a small knot that cannot go anywhere. Until you have freed yourself in this medium or this mode that we call earth, or time and space, there is no freedom. There is no jumping out and leaving behind. Do you understand? You may pray for that ability over and over again. Lord, please get me out of this mess. Please take my tears. Yes. And the Waheguru will certainly take them, and will certainly change all for you. He says, but I'm asking you not to do it out of fear. He says, but to do it. To do it the greatest, he says, don't become the prevaricator or the liar that says, take this from me so I may be happy, so I may be relieved. Just take it. He says, no, that's not why you came here. He says, why you came here is to build the power, the grace, the beauty, the transformation of who you are. He says, you have gathered plenty of poop. That's not the word he used. He says, you may have gathered plenty of that, but that has been your lifetime's adventure. He says, and those that you feel who have hurt you, who have maligned you, he says, they are still in that process themselves. So you must realize that. You must respect that. You have done that yourself. He says, respect where they are. He calls it on this communal scale of karma. He says, and please respect that and allow that to be forgiven. Do you see, this is the way that you become what they would have called a conductor on the Underground Railroad. This is the role of the healer. This is the role of the lover. As long as your own habits continue to haunt you like boogeymen, he says you keep yourself imprisoned. Not imprisoned by what happened to you, but imprisoned in your own, your own slowness to transformation. He says, don't be hard on yourself. You just put yourself in another box. He says it means relaxing and forgiving yourself deeply for having put yourself on this path to the light. Forgiving yourself deeply for having put yourself on this path to the light. He says the axiom to putting yourself on this path to light means that you deal with all the dark corners. That means that you have conscientiously gathered the darkness. Do you understand? It is very much a part, an intrinsic part, an absolutely necessary part of the spiritual path. So instead of blaming, instead of worry, instead of feeling incapacitated. He says, relax and let yourself be free. He says, I know it doesn't happen all at once, and do not berate yourself for that. In the time, in the processing, he says, if you watch, you will be amazed at what wisdom the transforming brings. He says, you could not have gathered that grit to create that wisdom unless you had gone through the very darkness. He says the angels don't worry about the darkness. They don't have this karmic thing going on. He says that you, as fractions of the Godhead, very conscientiously have taken on this cycle. He says you might want to just congratulate yourself for that. The path is for the Godhead to fragment into aspects of unknowing, which we call darkness, and then to move back, to awaken, to have the full knowledge, the full union again of light, of the pure light, of the pure knowing, to become the awareness of the Creator. He says, without your aspect of the awareness, knowing, reflecting the Creator could not know itself. You, my dears, are the aspect of the Creator that is knowing itself. But in order to do that, you must have come through the pit of fire of darkness. And that darkness is simply separation from knowing who you are. He says it's really not difficult or complicated. But it does take relaxing, and in the return path, it does take forgiving. He says, and forgiving the path that you have chosen for this extraordinary, he calls it post-universal knowledge of the infinite. That's what you're headed for. He says, so please don't get your nose stuck in the ground. Don't get it stuck in the past. Don't get it stuck in your habits. Your habits of berating yourself, of hurting yourself, or to be mesmerized by those who have continued to hurt you in the past. He says it's part of the process. It's part of what you have ordered up in order to create that darkness, so that you may transform through it. Do you understand that now? It may seem very personal. He says, but I'm telling you, you are the very personal, pure, total aspects of the infinite. And it is now that you are taking off your sunglasses to totally experience the great sun, the great light of who you are. But as you do it, taking off the sunglasses means that you are finally forgiving every part of something that you may have called evil, that you may have called beyond unloving, hate, fear, degradation, judgment, ostracism, wounds of any sort, whether they be individual or collective. He says, now don't just throw them aside. No. There is treasure for you in that darkness. And that treasure comes as you forgive and let go the glue that holds that darkness to you. Please deeply forgive. very sacred event in your lifetime. Take all the hurt, all the wounding, and forgive every aspect, including what you call the perpetrator, and including yourself for ordering it up. You, in your unfathomable wisdom, actually ordered it up. Keep up the breath. Keep up the forgiving. Keep up the heart breath. He says keep up the heart breath and the forgiving as I talk. He says you cannot believe what pinnacles of light you are. But when you continue to blaspheme yourself, that is, to encircle yourself with the continued story of, I'm not good, I am not just, those people have hurt me. He says you continue spiraling in the darkness. Now I'm asking you, please, to really appreciate and respect the darkness for what it is, because you have gained such elements of knowledge through those experiences that as you heal, as you let go the glue that has held them together in such hurt, difficulty, darkness, as you forgive them, that glue disappears so that those elements may rearrange themselves and become the base of your wisdom. But do you see, you can't have access until you deeply forgive. This is not superficial. This is not with your mind. This is with the depth of your meditative heart. Keep up the breath. Keep up the breath. If the tears come, let them come. If the shouts and the agony come, let them come. That is part of the unwinding process. He says your heart is too pure. He said it is extraordinarily pure. Rest in that. Let go of guilt. Give guilt, that darkness, up in the same way. Let it go. Let go of the guilt. He says, you know I have my arm around you. You are safe. You can do this. Any recriminations, forgive it. Forgive it deeply. Do you understand that you, as the Almighty that you actually are is actually your own Savior? Do you understand? You, in your own consciousness, have the quality of healing, have the ability to deeply, deeply transform and let go. And as you do, he says that triggers the greatness that is you to reverberate throughout the universe. Now, you may think that that is big and flowery speech, but if you were sitting here where I am sitting, you would understand. There is nothing that does not vibrate throughout the universe. So, when you transform the elastic flows that hold together your own personal darkness, you can imagine what an explosion of vibration it sets off in the universe. And as you do, it vibrates through the qualities of vibration, or what you might call the levels or the layers of vibration or creation. So as you take on your own healing, your own transformation, it transcends all of those layers and has the effect on all those layers. He said, you have heard of the collective consciousness. That's what I'm talking about, he says. You want to save the world? This is how you do it. You forgive deeply, utterly. Forgive the hurt and the anguish that resides deeply within yourself. Not only does it loosen the collective darkness, but it gives the collective consciousness a chance to vibrate with your increased light, like ringing a bell. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that delicious? So keep up your heart breath. And don't get mad at yourself if it is bit by bit. That is fine. You are in time and space, which is meant for step by step. Just understand that this is a journey that takes many steps. Be grateful for every one of them. Be grateful for the adventure of what happens, of what transformation takes place at each step. Remember, he says, this is a foot journey. You're not whizzing by in a bullet train. He says you are knowing every piece of nature, every piece of consciousness with every step you take. This is walking the pilgrim's path, step by step. Keep up the breath. He says that it takes an alertness. It takes an alertness and an awareness. And when you see the darkness come up, do not get lost in it, but say, oh, precious darling. Oh, precious darling. Let us now forgive you. Let us now let you see and open the light. He says it doesn't matter if your perpetrators have killed you, have scored you, have dismembered you. It does not matter. What matters is your own deep forgiveness. That is the excitement. That is the joy of this step-by-step journey. Keep up the breath. He says, you know that you may always rely on me. You always call on me, and I will always be there to surround you, to hold you. He says, as you go through these birth pains of birthing the light from within you, I am holding you. You know that. So he says, you did not make your path easy for reasons, very special reasons, for you to cherish. And each bit of the darkness is holding the raw material of your own wisdom and giving you the opportunity to brush away that which keeps you from realizing the truth of the light of who you are. It is an opportunity. Keep up the breath. Be grateful. And now, sweet ones, it is time. It is time to share what your experience has been, what you have become aware of in yourself, and what your experience has been. It says, who can start? He says, I know, I'm tickling one of you.
Satnam, aloha.
Satnam, Paramdian.
God bless my Mars in Aries makes me be forward and be aggressively the first so often, huh?
Well, thank you. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to speak up because I'm very grateful. And I know that it helps others speak up too when somebody breaks the ice. It's so beautiful to watch the orchestration, the coincidences, whatever you want to call it. Just yesterday, I asked help and prayer from somebody, and they said, "What do you want?" I go, I want to be able to forgive myself so well and love myself so well that I no longer impede all the light and greatness that the universe is trying to give me. And as we started the breath today, it's interesting because normally doing heart breath, it doesn't happen, but I have this deep chest pain right now. And I suspect it's because, I haven't been able to cry. I'm sure it'll happen when it happens. There's something deep within there happening.
Okay.
And it's just a gratitude to be in the space and to remember that no matter what's going on outside, that this is the space to be.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, dear. It's quite an amazing journey, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahalo.
Now, who else can share?
Siri Gian?
Yes.
This is Rahmane.
Yes,
and,
dear.
Can I share a poem that Tomas wrote that we both thought was in keeping with the simplicity and the power of what Babaji was sharing today?
Of course.
Thank you. So it's Tomas's rewrite from the Aramaic understanding of the seventh line of what's known as the Lord's Prayer, which is usually translated as "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." That's a very poor translation, but anyway, from the Aramaic and through Tomas's muse, he writes, "Authentic life is ripe, leaving sweetness as a guide. Let us digress from indigestible consumption of ill-formed presumptions, invest breath with precious thankfulness, transform the stream of grievances into a sea of equanimity, freshen dank appearances and vestiges of fear, with uncontested reverence. Disavow inauthentic life and allow beauty to proceed with simple eloquence.
How beautiful. How wonderful.
And one of the keys to this is that the word that was translated as evil can mean unripe. And that fits in so beautifully.
Cool.
Yeah. And so all the things that are done that can appear to be evil from the judging mind, when seen from a place of, oh, there's a place of unripeness within myself or within this other person, then the sense of separation evaporates, and when we have a fruit that's not ripe, we don't hate it or tell it it's bad. We give it time and space to ripen, and then it becomes sweet. And that's why it starts, authentic life is ripe, leaving sweetness as a guide. That the innate sweetness, the innate wisdom and love that is the essence of all of us will come forth when we relax and stop judging and do the heart breath and allow
and forgive.
And forgive, yes.
Well, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. I always appreciate Tomas's poems because they are always so right on. And if anybody wants to get this amazing book, what is your email address that they can contact you?
RAHTOMAS@gmail. And I think it's on Amazon. It was, or it's on one of those.
What's it called?
Spun Wonderment.
SPUN? Wonderment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. We really appreciated that. And I love that idea of evil being also translated as unripe. How perfect.
Yes. Yes. Very natural, organic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, who else can share? Can anybody else share? Okay, so now I am not forcing anybody, but Lucinda, do you have any thoughts, any feelings?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I was really appreciative of the poem that Tomas had written just then. A lot of what was being said just struck me to the heart.
Good.
And a lot of the forgiveness layers, like an onion, have been being able to see my accuser as someone who just was full of fear and unripe is a good word. And
you know what strikes me is that, may I tell your story briefly?
Sure.
Lucinda was substitute teaching in a school, and she noticed that this young woman needed healing. So she actually energetically did a healing on her, and the young woman didn't know what that was. She felt it, and maybe for other reasons as well. Her family brought a suit against her and unjustly accused her of abusing her. And so Lucinda spent, 2 years in jail?
756 days. 2 years and a month.
My gosh. And so what is amazing to me right now is that you're obviously you are a very good healer, and that the healing set this all in motion. Set it in motion for your own healing. Isn't that amazing? I mean, to me, I think that's amazing. Like you said, you know, we in our most divine selves set these things up so that we can develop these elements in the darkness, and then through the healing, they become available to us. In other words, as we become ripe, as we become ripe. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, yes. And the word that struck me so much from Tomas's poem was the word sweetness.
Ah, how delightful.
That the healing only comes through the sweetness.
Only comes through what?
Comes through the sweetness.
That's right.
It is only through that love, that transformation. And that's the only way that I have been able to heal as much as I have up to this point. Is to forgive her.
Deeply, deeply, not in your mind, but way down in your meditative heart.
Yeah. And what was beautiful for me this time, I mean, what have we been at this now for 8 months? 8 months of trying to heal. But I didn't have a lot of the pain. My heart was flowing.
Oh, wow.
And that's a real blessing. And I've been feeling a lot of that blessing ever since I was at the Dalai Lama, frankly.
So wonderful.
He blessed us all. He blessed us all with his presence, and his message was very similar to what we were hearing today.
What was his message?
He was speaking of love and not being fearful in these times when it's easy to be fearful, and to know our interconnectedness to everyone and everything, that you are me and I am you, and we are the earth and we are a part of all of this, and to love it, because only by loving it will we transform through the fear and through what we are thinking we are seeing happening around us, and only by loving it. Not distancing ourselves and separating ourselves, but in fact stepping right in with it and knowing that it is us.
Isn't that profound?
Oh yes. He was so beautiful and so humble, and
so sweet. He's just so authentic.
Sweet.
Everybody else's will never, but he just kind of dances and laughs, and he's fabulous.
He said it's only through being that loving kindness that we are, that we must let ourselves be to all, and in particular to think of someone that we don't think we like, or that we think has harmed us, just as we were speaking of today. He gave a very similar message. And so it's nothing less than miraculous, really, to just keep hearing this message over and over and over, day after day, from every holy being that exists in the universe. So
that appears to be the message, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Yogi Bhajan gave us 5 sutras for the Aquarian age. And the first sutra is, the other person is you.
Yes.
Sounds like what the Dalai Lama was saying. Yeah. Does it to you?
Oh, yes. And it's only through this love and this transformation that we do reintegrate ourselves into each other and into community and create the wholeness of of community that we seek to heal the planet.
Right. And remember,
to heal the planet and ourselves.
Right. Remember that we're all facets of the same. It looks to me like we're all the same soul, frankly. When I hear each person's soul, maybe you read yesterday's email, but when I hear each person's soul talking, each person, it talks specifically to them, to their uniqueness. But the message is so similar. For instance, the main thing that souls tell people is relax. Isn't that amazing? Relax. And it has its own way of speaking and being kind and cozy and loving to each person. Okay. So did you want to say anything else, Lucinda?
Just that I felt the message definitely was in part for me. and that I felt blessed by the holiness, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I feel blessed today with this message again. I just keep hearing it over and over again, and that I need to try to share what I know somehow. So.
That's right. That's right, and it's going to become obvious if it hasn't already. What do you think about taking this message to groups of people and just start telling them?
Well, I kind of have already started doing that. I went down to our state legislature in Oregon on Monday. And I was able to testify about health care and the need for health care and fairness for all people, and I was afraid actually to go down and testify and be a part of public goings-on at first, because I did not want to get stuck in anger, which I have at times been very stuck in. And I was able to speak without being so stuck. So,
isn't that marvelous?
Yeah, I was glad that I had spoken and did speak up for all people who need health care, and so
what
that's
about
my first small step, maybe.
Good. And then how about taking this same message that you are learning, that you are living by now, and begin to let other people know they don't have to be stuck in fear and in anger. And here's what you do about it. Here's what it's really all about. And here's what you do about it. What do you think of that?
Well, I need to start by talking to a minister at a church.
To do what?
Well, there is mass hysteria. I was arrested because of mass hysteria, and government and police and DAs and school districts and DHS and just all the different bodies, people that were operating on fear. And we have to be able to be at a point where people can talk to people and ask questions of each other in love and in truth and in light, in order to help each other if there is truly a problem, and also to insist upon the truth and light and love being our motivations to then uncover, what is truthful about a situation.
Mm-hmm. And why do you need to speak to a minister?
Well, from the pulpit, people were advocating if you're suspicious about somebody, you need to call the police or you need to call DHS, or if you suspect that there's a problem, in order to save children, you should contact these people. And you know, I was arrested wrongfully because people jumped to conclusions and presumed things and were full of fear, rather than anybody just sitting down and saying, I'm wondering what's going on here. And if they had asked questions of each other and thought of each other as respected members equally in a community that is full of love, there wouldn't have had to have been any intervention at all. I would never have been arrested, because the truth would have come out, you know, that a child had lied. But that would have her thinking that she needed to lie, or she whatever she was thinking and feeling had not been also addressed, and still hasn't, in love.
Okay, so when are you going to talk to this minister?
Well, it'll be pretty soon here.
All righty. We're behind you.
Siri Gian?
Yes.
If it's useful for Lucinda, I'm happy to connect you, Lucinda, up with a group that I'm part of, which ordains people like you, and that you can be the minister that you confer with, and you could have legal status as a clergy, and that might help protect you in your ministry, in your service.
Oh my! Who is it that's speaking?
Rahmani.
Oh, okay, Rahmani. Oh, okay.
So
I'll get in touch with you then.
You have her email address? She gave it earlier.
Actually, I don't, but I think you wrote to me when I was in prison, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes, so I do have your address to write to you.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah. Because I've been meaning to send you a thank you card.
Great.
Lucinda, what she just said is very important. Because what she's identified is that in our current society, we get our permission for acting the way we do from those that we feel who are in charge of us, okay, which includes ministers. And I assume that what you're talking about is to let that minister know that they did not curtail that. They did not change the whole situation to one of love for all sides. Is that what you're talking about?
Right. I felt that he was fomenting fear. And if anybody has learned anything from their experience of what I've gone through, I would have thought that whole congregation had learned not to, one, jump to conclusions and judge someone and act in fear by calling police or DHS or some body out there with suspicions. But instead, we need to come together as a world, as entities, to speak to each other and to, in love, if you truly have a concern, say, let's sit down and what's going on here? What's going on here? And ask questions in love, not in fear, and not making accusations in fear, because that is mass hysteria, and that leads to burning of witches and everything else, and people being arrested and put in prison wrongfully. And innocent people need to have that opportunity to be asked questions. But all people, this occurred to me too, you know, I was thinking about this accuser of mine. This person clearly is a person that has been operating in fear in her life, and she has not been talked to and addressed with love to uncover and get down to, you know, I was dreaming just last night, just early in the wee hours this morning, I was dreaming of being in a courtroom with her and having her slowly unraveling the truth of, she'd been afraid, that she would lose her regular teacher's goodwill and standing. She was afraid that the teacher wouldn't like her if the teacher came back and found out she'd misbehaved in my classroom. And so she, I think, was operating out of fear. So she decided she would get me removed and get me in trouble and say something and lie about me so that it would divert attention from herself. But this child hasn't been talked to. This young person has not been talked to in love to help her to go through and unravel and heal. Because someday she'll need to be able to live with herself with what she's done.
Okay, so now do you see how you are moving into the role of if you realize or if you are conscious of all who have ever been connected to this situation is your congregation and you are ministering to them. Do you see how you're coming into that role?
I
guess you understand
so.
That?
Yeah, I guess so.
Lucinda, can you stand up straight and say yes?
Yes.
Good.
Well, I've always been meant to tell whatever truth I know. That has always been
but now you know how to
role.
say it with neutrality and with love and with forgiveness.
With
forgiveness. How to teach and forgiveness and how, not from your mind, but deep within, and how to allow the healing to occur. Mm-hmm. You've learned that. Everybody knows that you have done that. And that's where your authority comes from.
Well,
you see, not authority to say, I know, but everybody knows, oh my God, look what she's done. Maybe I can do it. You see?
But I didn't consciously choose it.
Yes, dear, you're so
I mean, I know I was born into this life as I take me, I'm jumping up and down wanting to come, but I guess I wasn't thinking in terms of what all that might entail, the suffering.
Okay, it doesn't happen with what we call our everyday self, our mind, our thinking mind. It happens with a very much higher part of ourself. Can you see that?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's clear that it wasn't a clearly conscious thing on my part at the time. I feel I'm very young and ignorant. What have I gotten myself into here? But
well, that's our everyday self. Our ego, our mind, our memory. But I'm talking about the pure awareness of your soul.
Well, that has to lead. That has to lead because...
You got it. Very good. Very good. And I'm sorry we are over time now, but thank you so much for talking with us about this, dear. And we send you our heart breath and our encouragement to keep up with this. Bless you, dear.
Thank you. Bless you. Are you feeling better?
I am.
Yeah, I thought
when
you were.
When I get in this energy, I always feel better.
I was going to say, I thought you'd be healed by it. Huh?
Yeah. Okay, so everybody please sit straight, palms together. And sing this beautiful song to one another. Inhale. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you. And the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. Guide your way on. vow to your innocence, your own love, and the beauty of your forgiveness. Bless you all. And this is going to go up as a recording, so don't forget, you can listen to it over and over again. And we'll speak again next week. Sat Nam. Bless you all. Bye-bye.
Get well.